All right, let's get started. Who's been to see the shaman recently?
Oh, recently.
Oh, but you've seen the shaman. Anybody else seen the shaman? Huh? Yeah, there's that. Which is why this is why I'm here. Dispel some assumptions and myths and whatever. So the shaman, the definition is the one who sees in the dark. And I'll explain more about why that definition is so true. So my son was apparently shamanism is now the sexy thing to do, to go to the shaman. My son, who is very got to be the scientific method kind of person, he won't even let me do Reiki on him. He won't even let me touch him, for whatever the reason. It doesn't matter. Everybody comes to things as they need. Anyway, he was on a dating app. And he's trying to connect with this young woman. And she said, well, I'm really busy that Saturday. I've got to take my daughter to ballet and to get my teeth cleaned and go see the shaman. Well, swipe. I don't know if you know how dating apps work, but it's a swiping thing. So anyway, swipe, not doing that one. So in upstate New York, they are running to the shaman up there. All the East Coast seems to be more shamanic, open than any other parts of the country, which I just find really interesting. So this is shamanism in the 21st century. What is your sort of image of what a shaman is, looks like, does? Maybe from the movies?
Indian or East Indian.
Okay, East Indian. Wise. And they get their wisdom from compassionate spirits. It's not just coming through their own wisdom, but it's through, and we don't use the term guides in the Western version, and I don't think they do anywhere. It would be the spirits, the compassionate spirits. That is what is helping you and giving you that wisdom. So if you're coming from a religious background, where did we feel like we're supposed to get our wisdom? The Bible, Quran, books of wisdom, which is absolutely true. They don't have to be separate. They can be melded together. I am a follower of Jesus. I have a lot of the Bible in my head. I don't read it per se anymore. There's other kinds of wisdom, Buddhism, other things required. And this, I just fell into shamanism, actually. And we'll talk about that. So this is shamanism in the 21st century. Look at the picture of this person with the drum. What do you see? Okay, so probably indigenous, maybe. Okay. Celebration. What about what the person's wearing? Looks like, yeah, looks like, just regular white folks kind of thing, Absolutely. So I fell into this with my good friend whose cousin was a shamanic practitioner from the Peruvian side. And then later came to learn about the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. And that was created by Michael Harner, who was an anthropologist. And he went around, participated for 40 years in all these different types of shamanic healing practices, and came to the conclusion, wait a minute, there's themes here. Every shamanic community does power animal retrieval. They do healing of various sorts. They do journeys to get answers. They help souls cross over. They help the soul to be empowered. It's about the soul. how appropriate in at St. Luke to be talking about the soul, but just from a different way of looking at it and a different way of healing. So it is about the soul, and we're going to talk about different ways that can happen. So see if I can advance here.
Waiting for it to advance. I did see a shaman in Peru or Ecuador, which
Okay.
our group went to visit the shaman, and they all sat in a big circle. And he was and his apprentice was a woman. He was a shaman and had been for years and years. And among other things, he was a girl of healer, because they talked about one of the girls that had been bitten by one of those awful snakes. And they were able to get the shaman, and the shaman had that. So kind of like a doctor.
How far back in history is that shamanism?
Well, that's my disclaimer. I'm not a historian. It goes back hundreds of thousands of years. The word shaman came to be, as I understand it, from Mongolia and Siberia. And then that term it's always been there. It's just what kind of language are we going to use with it? How are we going to label it? Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. So let's talk about what it is not. I always like to get that out of the way. So what it is not, it's not psychic medium work. So you don't go to the shaman to find out. Now, maybe there are some that happen to be psychic mediums in addition to being a shaman. And one of my teachers is that, but does not mix the two together. So the psychic medium just has a real radar for the future, for the past, for all of those things. I want to get an answer, why did this happen, or what's going to happen next? When you're dealing in shamanism, the compassionate spirits have no sense of time. On the other side, there's no sense of time, including compassionate spirits who have, I guess you would say, evolved and healed and are there to help. So it's not that. And it is never done. Shamanism is never done without permission. And I really like the Foundation's definition is that it's sorcery. If you're doing something to somebody else and they don't know it, that is not good. You have invaded their space. You've invaded their mind, their heart, their soul. Even if you think they need it, they still have autonomy. We never, even with Reiki, and I have some Reiki friends who have broken off from me because I have said, hey, we're not doing this permission thing strict enough. And one of them left, which is fine. It's okay. Okay, the next one is culture or ceremony specific. So yes, we do what's called, bringing up the circle, but we're not around a campfire. We're not, some teachers will, honor the four directions, but it's not ceremony specific. We're not smudging and all of that type of thing that you might think of. Doesn't predict the future because there's no time. So you can't go to your shaman and say, would you, do a journey, ask the compassionate spirits, when is my mom going to die? You're not going to get an answer. And you're also not going to get an answer if the question is along the lines of what happened? What was that family secret? You have autonomy on the other side, and you have to have permissions on the other side. You can't be nosing into people who have passed in their business and their secrets unless they give permission on the other side through the compassionate spirits. And there's no psychedelic use. Dr. Harner did participate in some ayahuasca. There are some shaman communities that do not do any psychedelics of any kind, any drugs of any kind, herbs, and then others that do. And he found out that you don't need to do that. You can use what's called song, and I'll give you a quick little demonstration. And that will click your brain, and you are in a different world. It's outrageously fun. It not only has healing aspects, but it is so fun. And some compassionate spirits are very funny. So let's see. But it's not. Oh, the last one. Sorry. Psychedelics, no, and it's not a religion. Although, when I looked it up as a definition, when I Googled it just to see what it said, Wikipedia had this whole thing about it being a religion, and it's like, no. So here's I just stumbled across this as I was reading about some things on the website. This is from Dr. Harner, and he says, since the West overwhelmingly lost its shamanic knowledge, I didn't know we had one, centuries ago, due to religious oppression, the Foundation's program in core shamanism are particularly, intended for Westerners to reacquire access to their rightful spiritual heritage. So this skill, which is very easy to learn, is very helpful in life, in getting answers and in knowing your path and knowing your direction through quality workshops and training. And it sounds like, well, that's ridiculously simple. It is, which is what this is what people who do Reiki training also say. It's simple and it works. So the shaman was appointed by the community. I do not feel like I can call myself a shaman because I'm not part of a community in which a shaman is needed. But in some communities they do, and certainly in the past they did, to find food, to find shelter, to find places that were safe, to do healing. And sometimes the healing part would be combined with the shamanic work. And in some places, maybe you'd have a separate person who was the healer and somebody else who was doing the shamanic type. Okay. So let's talk about what it is. Oh, it's Michael. Healing for the soul. That's what it's about. I can't tell you how many, especially young people, I see as Reiki clients who have lost their power, who feel like they don't know what they're doing in life. They feel like they have no power. They have no ability to make good decisions. And so that, there's a difference between power that's been labeled upon you. It's like you're the president, or the kind that comes from within, that feeling of confidence. And the shaman has to have confidence. Confidence and training is what gives that power to the shaman or shamanic practitioner. I'm just going to use shaman for sake of time. Okay. It's a connection with compassionate spirits that gives suggestions. We don't go around saying, well, my guide told me this, or I'm working with these guides, and they list all the guides. That is just inappropriate. For one thing, you lose power with it, because the more you talk about it, the more it loses power. Which is why when you have a power animal, given to you, and I can give power animals. I can go find a power animal, give it to a person, give it to a client. The instruction is create a relationship with the power animal. You can dance with the power animal and create that relationship. Gives you power. Ask the power animal to help you every day before you walk out the door is a good practice. And don't tell anybody what your power animal is. Don't put it on your t-shirt. Don't put it on your mug. It loses power. And I recently went to Boston for a special shamanic training, and we learned how to coach people to learn to do this. Just this piece of going and asking questions. Go to the different worlds and ask questions. And there was a lot of psychotherapists. There were 30 people, one psychiatrist, and people from all walks of life. And those who have clinical practice, we really got it, that this person has autonomy. It's their interpretation, not yours. So if you happen to see something, like sometimes when I'm doing Reiki, I just see like globs of energy and I just take it out. Maybe I tell the client, maybe I don't, but it's their interpretation. If I tell somebody something, well, this is what I saw, because I am very careful with that. Some people need to hear it. And some people, if I tell them, they'll create a story. You don't want to program people by what you see, no matter what kind of healing mechanism that you're using. So I tell them I just tell them, okay, the work's done. It's good. And I laugh after that 5 days of learning shamanic counseling, and we all felt the same way. Well, we paid $1,500 to learn to shut up. Just to be quiet. It's not your business. You're just the observer. You're just helping them learn the process. You're answering the questions, but you're not doing interpretation. So that applies to many different kinds of healing. So what are we talking about? These different worlds. So we are in the middle world. The spirits here, and I don't just mean spirits who have passed, but all kinds of spirits. They can have agendas, right? Think of poltergeist, spirits that are stuck in a home, in a building, and they're knocking things around, and they just need to go home, go to their home. And that could be home, could be the upper world, or it could be the lower world. So this isn't a heaven and hell thing. And that's hard to get out of your head when you're first learning this, because we're so used to up and down, to that dichotomy. So right and wrong, good and bad, all of that. Not in shamanism. So there's 3 worlds. There's the middle world, where you need to have some protection. I need my power animal with me. I need my team, because any work done here, you could accidentally run into something, but you don't have to be afraid, because you got your team. And we'll talk about what the team is. But in the upper world, there are compassionate spirits, usually in humanoid form, primarily. In the lower world, it's just as beautiful, and it's exquisitely beautiful. And especially when you're helping a soul cross over, there's levels. There's where your compassionate spirits are, and then there's levels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where you help a soul to cross over that hasn't already crossed. So in the lower world, there's compassionate spirits, and usually in an animal form. I have one that is Native American and has followed me from a while ago. So it's so interesting to go and ask the question, I need to get a power animal for Carol Alice. if I can use your name. I need, and so I'm traveling and I'm traveling. I need to get a power animal for Carol Alice. And if it appears 4 times, boom, 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 then I can gather it up and I can blow it into the chest and to the crown, which sounds so completely woo-woo, right? But we're going to see that it's not. Okay, so there's 3 worlds. And so the work of the shamanic practitioner is going to be to journey. And I'm going to, it's a practice for contemporary life, and it's always based on permission. So you have to ask the compassionate spirits, do you want to do this? Or is this a good thing? You say, is this the right animal? Should I be looking for something else? So there's always permission, layers of permission. When you do soul retrieval, you ask the person's soul, do you want me to go find a piece? Yes? Okay. So I'll go find a piece of the soul that broke off from some shock or trauma that happened in your life. Ask that piece, are you ready to come back? And they might say no. They may not want to integrate it just yet. So you say, okay, thanks. But you don't tell the client your soul piece didn't want to come back. That would not be a good thing. So let's say it says yes. Okay, you said yes. All right, I'll bring it back. And I ask the vital soul again, do you want this piece? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And then I can blow it in. What's interesting is that when we have surgeries and we're missing body parts, everything has a spirit. And that is a life-changing concept. Everything is alive. The chair is alive. Your cells are alive. Well, we kind of knew about the cells, but what about the chairs? It changes the way you look at everything. Every insect, every ant you kill has a spirit. Now, do you want, 500 mice in your house? Well, no. But there are humane ways to do things. It changes your respect for all of nature. The tree has a spirit, not a soul, a spirit, a spirit. And I'm going to have to read off this. Okay, so I gave you a little bit about souls crossing over, and that is called, let's just bring up the whole thing here, psychopomp. And psychopomp is where, it's Greek, I believe, that the shaman is the conductor of the soul. So when we die, there is this vortex of light, and you sort of catch the vortex. Some say 3 days, some say 5, some say a week. Anyway, you catch the vortex. But there's some people who don't know they're dead. Like the young man who is in, for example, I used to have an instructor who had a family mortuary, and she was the mortician. And she said, oh yeah, I talk to spirits all the time. And here's the young man who had the motorcycle accident, and he's standing over me, and I have to tell him, you need to go. You need to go to the light because you are dead. Sometimes somebody has to tell them you are dead. So that, and think about all of these accidents that happen, war, the shock of not knowing that you're dead. It really is mind-boggling. If the person doesn't want to leave, and the other one, so she said shock, not knowing you're dead is one category, and the other one that she sees in her as she's working on people who have lived a very long time and really don't want to go. I'm going to be out of here. But I can see that, just wanting to stick around and just hang out and just, see how things are going. So when you pass over, It doesn't mean that you, after you've done your own healing, that you can't come back and visit, but you don't want to be a poltergeist. And the poltergeist thing usually happens when the person doesn't catch the light, catch the vortex, doesn't want to leave. Maybe it's a buildings, land can have spirits that just don't want to leave. And so that is called psychopomp work, where you go and visit it either remotely or physically. Yes, you can mentally take a journey here on earth to somebody else's house and help the soul cross over. We're all connected. We say it all the time. Oh, we're connected. You know, we have little beams of light coming out. We are really connected. So much so that there is no distance. When we talk about sending Reiki, we're not sending anything. That person's essence is here, and I can work on them here with Reiki, and it goes to them. So the concept of, well, I've got this, I'm channeling something. No, I'm not channeling anything. It's just a vibration. And I can bring in your essence with permission and do it right in front of me like this. I've done it for people here at St. Luke. I've done it for people, family members, those who want me to. So that's a little piece about psychopomp. The conductor of souls, helping souls cross over. And so they're called suffering beings, because some of them have been here like hundreds of years. I've done the class. I used to be part of what's called a drum circle, and we would practice together. I did one at the Basilica. I felt like I should go to the Basilica. Hundreds of souls that had not let go. And I asked my compassionate spirits, I said, I can't handle this. We're supposed to do this one by one. So you guys are gonna have to figure this out. So they took a big ribbon, giant ribbon, and just kind of gathered them all up and took them where they needed to go, which sounds completely crazy, I know. Here's how you know that the shamanic practice is real. It works. And recently, my physical therapist, who's very intuitive, asked me to come over to her house because she just felt like something was there. So I went over and I thought, okay, I can use my psychopomp work, right? So we go in and we go room to room, and we both just get chills. At the same time, which is why I love to bring her, because we do things. If something's there, we just simultaneously, yeah, it's there. I don't see things. I don't hear things. It's total intuition. It's a knowing deep inside that there's something there. And sometimes there's physical manifestation, like, you know, getting the chills, or it's really, really cold in this room and it shouldn't be. So I asked the spirit, are you ready to go? Are you happy here? Because it might be. You've been messing around here, so you might want to go and help. I can help you cross. I can help you get to a beautiful place. Do you want to go up or down? I don't ask anything about what happened, how long you've been here. We don't have a conversation. Are you happy? Are you ready to cross? I can take you to a beautiful place, a happy place, a gorgeous place, a safe place. Are you ready to go? You ready to go? Okay, take my hand. We visualize it, and we take them to that level. And then we close the door, and we come back. You can go between 3 different worlds. Well, 3 different worlds, just like that. We just don't know that we can until we have some sort of introduction to that capability. And we're going to talk a little bit about calling. Well, I'm not called to be a shaman. That's fine. Usually they were appointed, but in the Western world, it's usually about a desire, a passion, a curiosity. And it feels like you've come home. It's like, this is it. This is it. For myself, from the time I was 5, I wanted to heal this crazy thing behind my father's ear. So I went and got my sister's diaper cream and put it every night. I put it, rubbed it in there. And of course, nothing happened. And I don't remember being disappointed particularly. It's just like, oh, we should try this. And that was kind of like that first desire to help, to be of service, to heal. Then I passionately wanted to be a medical doctor in high school. That didn't work out, thank goodness, because I don't do lack of sleep. I'd have killed everybody. It's just not going to work. But that passion has always been there. Then I came into Reiki and curanderismo and now shamanism. And all of those meld together. Many of my instructors came in as Reiki practitioners and still include that sometimes in their website as something that they do because it's a balancer. Okay. Let's see. I already talked to you about, let's see, extraction. Extraction's getting rid of the things that don't belong. And it could be just stuck energy. So you've seen people do smudging, right? Sage, Palo Santo, Copal. And everyone thought for hundreds of years that, oh, it's just the indigenous people doing their little ritual. We now have photographs that we actually carry. We actually carry kind of a sludge all over our body. And it's our dead blood cells. It's other people's dead blood cells. There's a thought. And then there's just stuff, chemicals maybe that we pick up, and emotions that turn into energy sludge. Many, 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 many times I can just intuit that there's some energy goop here. It's usually at the solar plexus. And I just, gently take it out. But I ask permission more often than I did before, because sometimes it's so thick, it's a protection for the person. And I don't want to remove it just yet. So we do a little more work as time goes on. Bands, especially for women, not able to speak their truth, not able to speak up. They have a really good intuition, but they don't trust it and they don't speak up. So there'd be little bands of barbed wire and tape and all kinds. And so I just snip it and I take it off. But I don't see it. And I don't hear conversation with compassionate spirits. I told the universe a long time ago, I don't know why. I don't want to see anything. Well, it took me seriously, but the intuition is very keen, and it works. It works. That is the way you knew it was real. Does it work? Now, when I was doing the curanderismo training in New Mexico, the first thing before we even did introductions or anything, they started talking about this. Well, is it real? Is the person making it up? Do they think they've been healed, but they really haven't? Once again, it's about, does it work? From experience, I can tell you it's not made up. But what if it was? Placebo effect. If it works and the person's health starts to shift and change because they change their mind, they change the story, why not? That's huge. Yeah.
How do you know when to help people with sudden death? So a person is dead. How do you know they need help?
you can just go and check and see if they do. And they'll tell you, no, I'm fine. They say, okay, do you want me to check back later? Yep. Okay. I'll put you on my list. You just ask. Just go and ask permission. Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's extraction. So in shamanic work, you can look. It's with your eyes kind of half closed, and you just kind of scan the body. Some people use their hands, very similar to what you do in Reiki extraction, and you just pull off. But with shamanic, with Reiki, we just throw it into Mother Earth. With shamanic work, we throw it into a large body of water. Lake Superior, thank you very much. So there's a lot of stuff in there. There's boats, there's all kinds of things in there. And now there's some extraction pieces in there too. Okay. We talked a little bit about soul retrieval and soul pieces. So, as I've already told you, core shamanism is the core things. 1979, Michael Harner started putting it together. It's now called the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. So you could do, they're now doing in-person classes again. And my teacher, Timothy Cope, is doing the basic class along with some others. So you could do it in person and just learn how to journey. Usually people who do that also want to maybe have this as something that they do for other people. So they want to take all those other courses. If you don't want to do that, you could do shamanic counseling, where we would meet one-on-one for a couple hours, 5 weeks in a row. And you learn to journey to the upper world, and the lower world. No middle world stuff. No middle world. Safe places. Get answers. Divination. So those are the two different ways that you can tap into this. And he found the themes and put it all together. Created quality and ethically maintained courses. I think that is so important in this day and age, to be able to have a foundation or any kind of group of people that really stick to quality and ethics. The president now of the foundation, he has passed. His wife is still alive, and she works with the new president, Susan Malicki, and she's a lawyer. And it's just interesting to see her on a Zoom meeting, in her suit and, all dolled up and shaking a rattle and calling the spirits. Why not? Why not? So another piece, let's get through that. It's not magical thinking. And Susan said this recently on a meeting. Even shamans can get into this, well, I don't have to do anything. The spirits will do it for me. I can just ask my paranormal to do XYZ. I can ask these compassionate spirits. No, you have work to do. This is very pragmatic. It's step by step. It's not magic. It can be miraculous, but it's not magical. We cannot tell our compassionate spirits, yeah, just go ahead and do it. In some cases, but in that situation, with hundreds of souls that were ready to cross, I couldn't do it all. You can ask for help, of course. You can certainly do that. The other piece, and I think this goes along with magical thinking sometimes, is subtle work for the most part. There's not going to be this big kaboom. You're not just going to sometimes it happens. If the person is ready and everything is the way it's supposed to be, sometimes the big kaboom can happen. There can be some sort of miraculous healing of the soul. Maybe the body, maybe the mind. But usually it's subtle. It's a little bit, a little bit at a time. I have a client that I will only do Reiki for. She was adopted from Russia. The first 2 years of her life were in a crib in an orphanage in Russia. You can imagine, both physically, mentally, she has fetal alcohol syndrome. She's able, she can have her own apartment. She can have a small job. She can see spirits. I believe she really can, but it gets all wound up in some of the other stuff going on, the stories that she tells herself. But I will only do Reiki for her. And I have seen, so I don't know, we're probably on the 8th session, a young lady who was just so much fear in her eyes, so much fear. And she still can't close her eyes. She still can lay on that table, but she can't close her eyes. She has, that hypervigilance is still there. And so she will eventually, that relaxation from energy therapy, if you've ever had it, you just doze off. You just start getting so relaxed. And now the anxiety is starting to lessen a little bit. And it's so exciting to see how that subtle work has this long-term effect. But yes, it can be miraculous. I can't look at this and look at this at the same time. So I'm just going to go off of this. So it's pragmatic. It changes lives as a result of our own actions. And the actions and the help of our compassionate spirits are part of that, or can be a part of that. Spirits do not do the work. We do. We go out in the world and make the changes. We can't just say, hey, go over there to Ukraine and do something. First, we don't have permission. If I would go over to Ukraine and I found a soul wandering, needing help, I would have to ask permission. Are you ready to go? I can take you to a safe place. I don't need to know what happened. I don't need to have discussion. It's none of my business. But I can help you. I can help you get to the other side. Once again, that would be shock. That would be sudden death. And then spirits are so inspirational. But once again, I'm not having a conversation with them. The compassionate spirits work with the personality of the shamanic practitioner. So, for example, I'm very visual. And I'm also, when I'm writing, I do a lot of metaphors and similes. So they're very symbolic. So if I go down to get an answer, I'm not going to hear, well, no, this is what you need to do. I'm going to see it like sometimes just an image, or maybe one of the spirits will the one that's comical will show me through her eyes something that's funny, but the answer to the question. So they suggest, they give help, they give power. It's concrete. It's not willy-nilly. It's knowledge you can trust. It's knowledge you can trust. It's called direct revelation. You mean I can have direct revelation in 2023? I thought that was just for the Old Testament. No, you can have direct revelation as well, which I think is pretty mind-blowing. Okay, let's look at, are they called? And I just talked about that a little bit. You would be appointed as a shaman to find the food and the water and help in the healing. You would be appointed in that way. You were called in that way. I do have some teachers who are adopted by North American tribes and appointed as shamans for that group. But in the West, the call, and we talk about the calls, our pastors talk about being called to a particular church, a particular theology, to be a pastor in the first place. So let's talk about let's do some little work here on what the journey is about. One more, there we go. Okay. So with the journey, we want to be in the dark. Okay. We want to be in the dark. We want to shift from what's called ordinary reality right here to non-ordinary reality. They're both called reality. It's not reality's here and that's not reality. They're both reality, which is an important piece to keep in mind with this. And we want to make it dark. So the first thing I would do, and for a long time, I didn't use this is called a mind fold. So it has these little holes where you can keep your eyes open, but it's really dark. And you want to get it as dark as possible. If it's a long journey, I like to lay down and then I would put actually I'd get my setup done and then put the mind fold, it's called a mind fold, on last. I usually use my iPad. So we got it dark. We're going to have it dark. And then I would use my iPad and plug it in and put the earpod thing in so that I can really, really hear the drum beat. So sonic drumming is what let's say the majority of shamanic communities use. Now, this kind of drum, because it's made out of leather, is not ideal because it's going to change with the humidity. And we're not sitting around a campfire where I can, heat it up and get a good sound. But right now it's pretty dry. And it has to be really fast. So some people drum for themselves or for other people with a smaller drum. And I want to call it, I think it's called a Remo drum, or is that right? Yeah. And has a little more a higher pitch to it. And you can go really fast because it's small. The other thing that I do, or that shamanic practitioners do, not during a journey. For a journey, you want to be relaxed, either laying down, you can do it sitting up. You want to be in the dark. You want to have the drumming in your ears very loud so that you start to visualize. To go to the lower world, you visualize a way to get to the lower world. So as one instructor said, we make it up until we don't. So we make it up to start it. Imagine I have this little hole in the base of a tree nearby, and I visualize going into the hole with my helpers, with my power animals, and we go down and 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 splash into some water and swim over. And then I just let the spirits take it from there. But I have an intention, a clear intention, which could be, I just want to get to know you better. I just want to get to know this particular spirit better. Or I have a question, or I have a question for a client that I have permission from to ask the question of you and bring an answer back. So that is the journey piece. But if I'm doing shamanic work or every day, we are encouraged to bring in our team of spirits, our power animals. And how do we do that? Well, I use this rattle, and Jim helped make these for me. It comes in a kit, not the feathers, but the rattle comes in a kit, and you soak it and you stitch it and all of that. But what's in it is really cool. So one of my shamanic teachers was gifted with several of these corn cobs. So I took the dried corn off and put it in a safe place. And I thought, I'm not sure what I'm going to use this for. But then I started into this where I needed a rattle. Believe it or not, this is a sacred, and sacred means set apart. So all of these are sacred objects. And this happens to be sacred corn from a sacred field in Iowa. It's like, who knew? Who knew Iowa could grow sacred corn? Well, it was just set apart and blessed. And that's what's in my rattles. So this one I use, this is kind of like my everyday rattle to call in my power animals. And I sing a song and I get power. I get that feeling of confidence and power by singing. So I sing and I rattle and I dance and you can merge with your power animals so that you're kind of looking like them as you walk around the room, whatever that may be. But you want to make sure that you tell that power animal to leave and thank them for their work for you, because compassionate spirits love us and want to help us. They're actually all around us, but it helps, I think, to go to their world to get answers. So this is kind of like the everyday rattle. These are feathers that just fell in my path along the way. Then I had a neighbor who had pheasant feathers. This one I created, I decided I needed a rattle with a deeper sound. So I got a larger one and put more kernels in. So it sounds serious. It sounds serious to me, it sounds serious to the client. And I use this to rattle over them. Once I bring, let's say, a power animal to them, I rattle over them. It's helping me and it's helping them to connect with a non-ordinary reality element. I really, really like this new one. So that's a quick lesson in how to journey. And then you can do that for the upper world. So for the upper world, I have a tree that's bent, and I use that as my visualization launching pad. And I climb up the tree, I visualize it, and boom, I go through the planets, the stars, and the planets, and you go through a membrane. You visualize the membrane, and sometimes you intuit it. Some people see it. And then you keep going until you go through another membrane, and then you're in the upper world. In order to help a soul crossover, there's even more levels up and down, like about six levels. But it's gorgeous and it's safe. And they are, once you say it's gorgeous and it's safe and it's beautiful and it's peaceful, they can relax. They may have been wandering for many, many, many years for various reasons. We may not even know all of the reasons. But if you have your own home, or you know of someone who's experiencing poltergeist situations, you can call Jill and I. And it has worked every time. And it surprises both of us. It's like, are you still having problems? No, it's gone. My house feels peaceful. There's no bumping around. My son can read in his room. He feels safe. It's like, dadgum, this stuff works. So we're creating relationship with these spirits, which is wonderful. And this is just a little bit about, which I've already told you about, Harner Shamanic counseling, where we would work one-on-one to learn how to ask questions, meet an animal, create that relationship, and do it for both worlds, but no middle world stuff. No psychopomp or poltergeist or any of that. Another important piece I wanted to, we've already talked about this in this presentation, but you are your own healer. You know, getting advice, great, but you doing the work. I have a PTSD client I've seen for 5 years. He was very, very focused on getting well. He didn't want to do it with medication. Not that I'm against medication, but that was his choice. And he came to see, he did Reiki twice a week for the last few years. It was once a week at the beginning. He has a counselor, therapist. He does EMDR. He works on the shadow side of his life. He's done TMS, which is the magnetic tapping thing. Did that twice, and he did neurofeedback. And then he would come and do Reiki to just sort of calm everything down, integrate it. It's phenomenal. He's had promotions at work. He's now thinking about his master's degree. He has confidence. When I saw him, and every member of his family can hardly talk. They just like talking to you in a whisper because they had no power. They had no power. It was a culture thing, but the father and mother took away the power of the kids. And I've seen his sister and his cousin and his niece and his nephew, and everyone come in and talking like a whisper. And sticking with any kind of energy therapy would help, and it has. And it's just so wonderful to see his life taking off. So what's the last word? Before Michael Harner passed, they asked him, so what would you want to say is kind of like, you know, the last sentence, or what is the most important thing out of all this work that you've done? And this is what he said. That's it. The spirits are real. So there's non-ordinary reality and there's ordinary reality. Okay, any questions?
The major foundations, to me, correlate with Buddhism, the connectivity of the spirits within us, and everything is connected in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The self-healing,
Mm-hmm.
through meditation process,
Mm-hmm.
it's all real.
Yep. And my meditation work, for many years, I don't do it as a formal practice. I do it more like if I see the cardinals out on the patio, I just stop and just go to no thinking and just look at them for as long as I can. That kind of meditation, because having a brain that can go quickly to nothing and allow compassionate spirits to help, that has been really helpful. And then you can switch worlds really, really, really quick, because you're not overthinking, oh, am I doing it right? Well, what if I put the soul in the wrong place? None of that. And part of that is having confidence, and part of getting your confidence is having your power animals and dancing with them and singing. Singing was a big part of shamanic work. So I always sing to my clients and sing to myself. Any other questions? Good observation. Yeah.
Yeah, do what Roger said. It seems to me I've done a lot of meditation work over the years, and there are so many parallels, it's amazing. And if you take the non-dual approach to Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
down right up to the present day, it all ties together.
It does.
I mean, I don't think in terms of power animals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the Holy Spirit is very much like what you were describing.
Yep.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's so much more. I mean, I always believed that we were connected, but now it's in a whole new dimension. Yeah, much more than we realize. We can bop between worlds. We can bring essence. We can heal. So the wonderful thing that the foundation did is they figured out right away when the lockdown happened, we got to find a way to do this online. And I did 8 courses online on Zoom. How can you do that? You can feel people's energy when they hold up their hands, and we would work one-on-one with each other. And you can just kind of make your eyes a little bit dim, and you can see what needs to be pulled out. You can do the whole thing on Zoom. In fact, a lot of shamanic practitioners do that now. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.